Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to FNL Lacrosse, presented by the New Hampshire Tomahawks. Nick Anastas, Eric Coburn with you for the next hour as we break things down across 6 divisions. Boys, D1, 2, and 3. Girls, D1, 2, and 3. Final week of the regular season, of course. Officially, I believe statewide, it comes to a close tomorrow, the final games being played, and then we've got tournaments to be finalized, etc. So a lot to go over on the high school front. We'll be joined at the bottom of the hour by 3 players from Pelham. Pythons carving out some serious territory in Division 3 and are widely, or at least among some circles, perhaps considered the favorite. We've got 3 seniors joining us: Memphis Patterson, Diego Jimenez, and Brad Sprague, 3 of the division's best. That, again, is at the bottom of the hour. And then Sarah Chodosh will join us, attackman from Hopkinton. They are near the top of the Division 3 standings as well. She's a D1 commit on the way to Lindenwood next year to play in the Atlantic Sun Conference. And, of course, Chris Hutler. He's going to be our first guest tonight in about 15 minutes or so. That, of course, is the longtime Dairyfield head coach and athletic director. The Cougars are seeking their 8th title under Coach Hutler this season. All right, Eric Coburn, back in the saddle for a second straight week. We appreciate you. Obviously, a lot has transpired between the last time you were on and tonight. Obviously, the end of the St. Anselm run, a magical run, a historic run that came to an end in the semifinals, the Final Four against Adelphi. You were obviously down there on the sidelines, Eric. We'll touch on that briefly before we get into the high school stuff. But what a season. I know it's tough to swallow now for those players, especially those seniors, but St. A's goes to the Final Four in 2024.
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously disappointing, end to the season. Whenever the season ends and it doesn't end with you as the last team standing with the trophy in your hand, it's going to be disappointing. But, I can't say enough about this remarkable, senior class, 8 NCAA tournament games, 2 conference championship appearances. They definitely don't want to hear it now, but very few people are fortunate to have, that kind of career. And, were a huge part in building, a program. When Coach Ma took over, they're a 2-win team the prior, and for him, to build, culture that we have now, to be able to, make it to the Final Four and the run that he's had over the past 8 years. It is nothing short of remarkable. And then, for the senior class, again, can't say enough positive things about them. The way they've impacted, the culture and everything like that is, can't put enough words on it. They left the program cleaner than they found it, which, is always the goal when you join a program. And now it's up to, the guys that we have coming back next year to continue to take the program to the next level. But again, can't say enough about, the senior class, truly a special group. We wish we could have got one more week together, and, it definitely hurts to trying to stay off social media as much as possible this week with all the championship weekend stuff, when you get that close. But, again, can't say enough, how much the senior class, means to me personally, and, the program and the rest of the coaching staff as well. So, can't say enough good things about them. A phenomenal year and, a phenomenal, 4 or 5 years for that senior class. So incredibly thankful to be a part of that group. And, now it's, it just about, flipping the page to next year and continuing to build on, what this past senior class has done.
Yeah. And congratulations again to you for being a part of that on the sidelines, part of Coach Shimana's staff. Congratulations for sure for what will be remembered as a great season. Let's take a look at the latest Division I standings as we focus now on NHIAA talk here. High school heating up, tournaments around the corner, and we've got maybe 1 or 2 games left on the campaign for some of these teams, but for the most part, these records are going to be final. Bedford, it looks like, is going to end up as the 1 seed at 15-1. The 1 loss, of course, was against Bishop Girton. The Cardinals are right behind them at 15-2. Coach Cameron's club is in action right now against an out-of-state opponent. But Bedford the 1, it looks like. BG the 2. Of course, the semifinals and the finals are on neutral fields. So home field doesn't impact anything outside of the first round. And of course, in Division 1, 8 teams make the playoffs. So you have the quarterfinals as the first round. All right, Bedford 1, BG 2, Exeter right now in third at 10-7. The Blue Hawks got off to a 7-0 start. And it's been kind of up and down since, but all of a sudden they're at 12-6, which could end up good enough for the third seed. Pinkerton at 10-7. Astros, they had a slow start, but seemingly got hot at the right time. Won 9 in a row at one point, and again right now are good for 4 at 10-7. Londonderry at 8-7. It starts getting crowded. Merrimack, they fell last night. They're 8-8. Concord is at 8-9. So the last spot looks like is going to go to Dover. Green Wave are 7-9 and feature one of the state's best goaltenders. And it looks like the other 4 teams are on the outside looking in. That, of course, is the Manchester Kings, who, by the way, won 5 games this year, which is a step in the right direction. Salem at 3-11, Nashua South 3-14, Nashua North at 1-17. But again, the top 8, it looks like, are playoff bound. Bedford, BG, Exeter, Pinkerton, Londonderry, Merrimack, Concord, Dover, in that order. Eric, your overall thoughts here on the eve of the tournament?
Yeah, one thing that's interesting is Bedford plays Pinkerton tomorrow night, and then they're probably going to see each other again for the second time, and then they're probably going to see each other again potentially, in less than 2 weeks. So, be interesting to see what the coaching staff show for their hand, if any, or if it's just going to be business as usual. That's something that jumped out to me when I was looking through the schedule and the standings. And then for Bedford, getting the 1 seed is important, because I think there's a bit of a gap between those top 3 teams like we talked about. So if you can avoid that 2-3 game, it's great to get that 1 seed. So yeah, it'll be interesting what happens in that Bedford Pinkerton game, and then Pinkerton at the 4, and then Londonderry potentially at the 5. That's a rivalry game. Not to use a cliche, but throw the record books out. I think Londonderry was
2-goal game the first time.
Yeah. I think Londonderry was maybe up at half or something like that. So something to monitor as well. It'll be interesting storylines kind of shaping up there. To see what happens with the Final Four there, but. Shaping up, I think, about as much as what we thought it would be. It'll be interesting seeing, how the Bedford Pinkerton game ends up, and then if they ultimately do end up having a rematch, in a week and a half, like how the schemes will change from the coaching staffs.
Boys Division 2, Portsmouth still undefeated at 15-0. Clippers closing in on the 1 seed. Derryfield and Coach Hutler joining us momentarily. They're at 14-2, of course, right in that hunt. Timberlane, they've been hot for a while. 13-3. The Owls looking for the 3 seed. Wyndham might have something to say about that. Jaguars are also 13-3. At the 5 is St. Thomas, very dangerous 5 seed. They've played all the brass tough all year. They're 11-4. Oyster River Newmarket, who seemingly every year come up with double-digit wins. Same thing this year, 11-5. Right now would be the 6 seed. Goffstown is a hard-nosed 7 at 10-5. Winnicott is 10-5. Hollis Brookline, who's always in that postseason mix, 10-6. Then you've got Alvern at 10-6 as well. So it looks like it's going to be some kind of a combination of those teams. The field is a little bit bigger, as we know. D1, 8 teams, and D2, I believe, is 11. So there's a little more room at the bottom of the bracket, so to speak. But all eyes are going to be, once again, Eric, at the top of the division. The top 2 seeds, potentially Portsmouth and Derryfield, seen as the favorites. And then you have real dark horse wild cards, I think, in Timberlane, Wyndham, St. Thomas, etc. Is that about right for Division 2?
Yeah, I'd say so. One thing I would point to, and it would be interesting to talk to Coach Hutler here in a second here, but the Derryfield and Timberlane game was a 2-goal game, I believe, when they played this year. So That'll be interesting, a semifinal match potentially. But I still think, Portsmouth and Derryfield are on a collision course. But, as I mentioned last week, some of the teams, like I know Wyndham and St. Thomas, and Timberlane, obviously, they have a couple guys who, if they get hot, they could, take over a game. So it's something to monitor, even though they don't have the depth that Derryfield and Portsmouth do. This time of year, all it takes is one or two guys, and they can take over a game. So, that's what jumps out to me, looking at the Division II standings here.
And Albert's had a good year as well. They may be a tough out. Broncos are 10-6. Hollis Brookline getting healthier, as we found out last week. Could be a tough out in that first round. So it's open. I think this is one of the years where it may be open. But again, I think Portsmouth, Derryfield widely seen as the two favorites. All right, Division III, and we're going to get into this more at the bottom of the hour with three Pelham seniors. But the Pythons right now have the division's best record at 13-1. Campbell on their heels at 13-3. Hopkinton 11-3. Kearsarge and Laconia are 10-4. Bow is 9-4. Cole Brown has been good. They're at 10-5. Then you got Plymouth at 9-5, and those are the above 500 teams. Again, a big field. I think it's 12 teams in Division III. I think rounding out the field would be Bishop Brady, Guilford, Interlakes, Lebanon, and potentially Trinity. So there you go. Pelham, they're physical. We know that as we start at the top of the list. And again, we'll get into that more with the players themselves. But your overall impression here on what's really been a growing, kind of a bubbling program the last few years, and now it may be Pelham's year to burst through.
Yeah, absolutely. They're certainly, they definitely have, like you said, some good athletes. Like I know, two of the guys we have having on had tremendous, football careers. So, whenever you can have athletes, that certainly helps. And, a huge advantage they have is, we've talked about on the show before is Sprague is one of the best face-off guys. Not the Sprague we're having on, the younger brother is one of the best face-off guys, in the state. So, in a game where there's no shot clock and it gets hot in June, if you can control possessions like that, that's everything. So, I think that's a huge advantage to them as well. When you can control the tempo and control whatever pace you want, win and draws, that's a huge help. But, I think Division III is, in my opinion, probably the most wide open division out of the three in terms of the depth, all the way, I think those top six teams have a, legitimate chance to win, and you look at Pelham, I believe their one loss was to Kearsarge and they're the 4. So, there's definitely a lot more parity in Division III compared to the other divisions. So, that's a super wide open, which is going to make for really entertaining lacrosse. I think these top 6 teams have all kind of beat each other. So, it all depends on matchups and who they get in the playoffs. But, there's the 3 divisions. I think that has the most parity and potential for being the most chaotic, so to speak.
Yeah, you could make a case as well for the girls' Division I, because that top half is kind of that round robin situation you mentioned. Different wins against different teams heads up, but BG, Portsmouth, Bedford, Souhegan, Pinkerton, that's the top 5 in order as of now. Cardinals at 14-2. Portsmouth at 13-2. Clippers are on the road tomorrow at Souhegan. Bedford is at 13-3. Souhegan is at 13-3. Then you've got Pinkerton at 12-6. Outside of that, Nashua South and Exeter identical 10-7 records, and then Londonderry brings up the rear at 7-9. So that's been kind of anybody's guess, I think, Eric, all year. It always, though, no matter the sport, no matter the year, comes down to who's playing well at the right time. Is that fair to say, or do you see as one of these teams as a clear contender?
No, I think you nailed it. When you get to this time of year and there's very little separation between the top 5 or so teams here, as we talked about. It's all about who's playing their best lacrosse, and if you have, a couple teams have a couple, games left in the schedule, Souhegan plays Portsmouth, which is obviously, a big matchup in terms of seeding. And obviously two legit contenders on the girls side. Like that's super important that you play, good lacrosse and that to build momentum going to the playoffs. This is not the time of year where, you're working through the kinks and struggling and not playing your best lacrosse and still trying to figure out where the pieces is. Like this last regular season game is going to set the tone for for whichever team it is to moving forward, to be able to play, their best lacrosse. Like you don't want to leave that last regular season game kind of scratching your head and trying to figure out what your identity is. So, critical game, it's on the girls side, mentioning that Souhegan Portsmouth game. That's critical for both those teams to have some good momentum and some confidence coming into the postseason where, any game after that, if you lose, your season's over. So, I think that can be said for all teams in the state. You want to, stick to your identity and build some good momentum, in the last regular season game heading into the postseason.
Yeah, that's a big game tomorrow night in Amherst. Girls Division II, Winnicott and Wyndham. They look like they've been destined to meet all year. Atop the standings, Warriors are 16-1, Jaguars are 14-3. Timberlane again could be the dark horse at 13-3. Both the boys and the girls have identical records through 16 games in Plastow. Merrimack Valley, a double-digit win team, 10-4. Asda 4. Hanover, also 10-4. So that seed could flip-flop in the next couple of days. Then you got John Stark at 8-5. Goffstown quietly 11-7. They've had a good year. And both Kennett and Oyster River over 500 at 7-6. So Winnicott, it looks like, is the one, and Wyndham. And we found out how good of a year they're having based on our friend from last week. But they're right there at 14-2 and certainly in that mix. And then Division III on the girls' side, and again at the three-quarter turn, 6:45, we will speak with Sarah Chodosh, the attackman and one of the better players for Hopkinton. They're 12-2. Guilford is 12-2 as well. Bow is 14-2, and everybody is chasing St. Thomas as the Saints, the lone unbeaten on the girls' side in Division III at 14-0. Derryfield, they're having a good year. We'll get more from Coach Hutler in just a moment, perhaps, about that. And the Pelham girls are 10-4, certainly worthy contenders. 11-9-5. Cole Brown 8-5. Laconia is 7-7. Again, Sarah Chodosh from Hopkinton coming up at 6:45. Right now, we're going to bring in our first guest. He's a very old friend of the program, former co-host, longtime Derryfield head coach and athletic director, 7-time NHIAA champion. Joining us live from Manchester is Coach Hutler. How are you?
Nick, great to be here, man. Thank you for having me on. Appreciate it.
Well, we appreciate you, Coach. Thanks for carving out some time. Where to begin? I guess we'll run it back to the Portsmouth game just briefly. That was a nail biter. Went back and forth, an instant classic, all the cliches. Just the latest chapter in that rivalry. It ended up being, I believe, a 12-11 final, with the ball just rolling wide of the goal as the buzzer sounded. What did your team take away, and how did that experience help your team?
Well, you kind of hit it. I mean, the experience itself was great for our team this year. We're, I've never had a spring like this. We've been pretty beat up this spring. We've had some guys go down with injuries. You probably noticed in that game, our number one faceoff guy wasn't facing off. We had two starting attackmen out. Portsmouth had one of their better starting attackmen out, but it really didn't matter. We both played to the game we always play with those guys. And, but I think my guys took away from that a great sense of confidence that, hey, you know what? Yeah, we've had some bad luck. We're getting these guys back healthy, for the playoff run. But in the meantime, these younger guys are getting great experience right now. They stepped up in a big situation, it was under the lights, TV, against an amazing opponent, and they did what they needed to do. So I was super proud of my guys walking away from that game. Hate losing, but just really proud of the effort that the kids put in for such a young group, in that game. And I think it will pay dividends come playoffs. It only built our depth. We're getting guys healthy, and now we know we can, when we need to tap on some guys, they can go.
So. Yeah. You said getting healthy. what's the state right now on the eve of the tournament? Give us the state of the address, State of the Union address, so to speak, for
You
Danville.
want me to give away my team's injury list right now? No, we're just we're just not healthy. We're looking forward to welcoming Hollison tomorrow for senior night. In terms of standings, huge game. If we are able to get that win, we would get a bye. Heard you guys talking before. It's actually 14 teams in Division II make the playoffs there. So the top two teams get a bye. And then 3 through 14 play each other in that play-in round, and then it goes to the quarterfinals. So there is an advantage. I mean, we'll be happy no matter what. I mean, we would much rather win Friday night, but we would, we're happy with the extra rest if we get it. I heard you guys talk. There's been some crazy stuff happening in D2 when we had it all figured out. Again. The Winnicott game is huge for them against Alvern. If they do that, they finish 6th. If Wyndham holds serve and is able to beat Hanover, they would actually jump to 3. So I heard you guys talking earlier. Yeah, it looked like potentially if we did what we want to do in the playoffs, that it would be a rematch between Timberlane and Derryfield. But now if things hold serve on Friday, we could be potentially looking at the winner of Winnicott and Wyndham. So I've had to scrap, I was watching video and preparing for the playoffs, and I had to complain. I'm like, oh, all right, well, I guess we're going to get some other teams now. So, I mean, I would agree with you guys. I think D2 is wide open as it's been in a long time. I mean, obviously Portsmouth's been really dominant this year. Anytime you can have Zach Amen and Nick Smith out there running around, you got a leg up on most of your opponents. But you mentioned a team like St. Thomas earlier. When you got DeTola and Estes, like you said, if those guys when they get hot, they can run around and beat just about anybody. Wyndham's been playing really well with the Trudell brothers and Crowley. And you mentioned Timberlane, one of the best riding teams we've seen all year. Their defense is super legit. And then you talked about Ruppy Haley at Oyster River. Those guys have been playing really well. That's a group that was super young that keeps getting better. I mean, I'm scaring myself talking right now. So.
Well, you stole my thunder, Coach, because that was my next question. I guess I'll roll it into this. Is
Sure.
The fact that, and not just the boys Division II either, some other divisions I think are quote unquote wide open, where you talk about 5, maybe half a dozen teams you can make a case for. Is that a sign that the level of lacrosse on boys and girls statewide continues to rise and the sport continues to grow at the high school level? Is that a direct sign from that?
I think the number of kids playing is definitely increasing, right, and going up. I think the level of coaching is going up. I mean, never have we been in a time where it's been easier to access information, right? Like with all the college coaches holding clinics, YouTube videos, the ability just to access high quality games, right? I mean, I'm on a coaching text thread every weekend, and we're talking through like, oh my God, look at the lineup of games that you can watch, right? And look, everybody steals from each other, right? Like if you want to get better as a coach, there's no better time to do it right now. And it's almost like, hey man, shame on you if you're not, right? Like there's so much good stuff out there. And then it really comes down to, you got to tailor what you're doing to the skill set of your guys that you have, right? And it's one thing to say, oh, I want to do what Notre Dame's doing. Yeah, well, you probably don't have the guys to do that, right? But like there are things out there that you can little bits and pieces you can take away that you can incorporate in there. And I think I think the quality of coaching has gone up and up and up every year, especially in the D3 end. I mean, I was talking to Joe Marcellino on the podcast that we do, that the top 8 in Division III, it wouldn't surprise me if 1 through 4 made the Final Four. It also wouldn't surprise me if 5 through 8 made the Final Four this year. Like, I look at what Campbell did and like how they, the way they challenged themselves going up and playing Alvern. They played Central Catholic. They've had a real strong end of the season here. Could you imagine they might end up as like a 6 or a 7 seed, right? And all of a sudden a 1 or a 2 seed gets to play them in the first round. They're super talented. I don't think Josh Knight cares this year. I think he's like, look, man, we've been there before. I want to challenge my guys, get my guys better. I'm sure you guys have talked about it on here before. I think the number of teams playing out-of-state games, the number of teams challenging their schedule, like coaches have figured out that, like, look, yeah, we can go undefeated, whatever, but it doesn't matter. If our team's not prepared for the playoffs, then it's no good. So. I think D3 is wide open this year, and I think there's going to be some good games in D1 come playoff time too.
And then the girls seem to be having one of their better seasons as well. Coach, I know you're not directly involved in the program, but you're in the same building. What can you tell us about the Cougars on the girls' side?
Well, as athletic director, I'm really proud of what they've done this season. I mean, there's a good mix. There's a great senior group this year, and then there's a whole influx of kids who came up through the middle school with great lacrosse background, and those kids are getting involved right now and making major contributions on the team. The future does look really bright for them. I think we're hoping for a couple playoff wins here, and maybe kind of scare some of those top teams there and see what we can do. Make a Final Four, make a final, but the future's super bright for them. I love what the coaching staff's doing, and they're playing arguably some of their best lacrosse right now. I haven't gotten a score. They're down in Nashua today. They were playing a D1 game. They're playing Nashua North down there, kind of waiting on that score to finish up the season, and then getting ready for playoff time. So I'm excited. They're definitely hosting a home playoff game, so we're excited about that.
It's good stuff, Eric.
Coach, good to see you as always. Obviously, Deerfield, in contention every year, obviously, reigning state champions. How do you continue to, keep the guys focused and, make sure that they're not getting complacent? And what can you say about the culture, to make sure that, you're continuing to move in the right direction and, fighting that complacency and not just assuming, just because you won it last year, you're going to win it again, this year?
Well, as you know, right, culture takes time to build, and it's hard. You guys have done a great job over at St. Anselm, but once you start to establish it, it does feed upon itself, right? Like, I think the group that I have as seniors this year, they remember a lot of them did start as freshmen, so they've had that experience coming all the way through, and they've done a great job. Guys like Chili Cabot, John Kramer, my goalie Parker Liebitz, he came in. He was the only goalie when we had him. Now he's got two younger kids under him to mentor. Right, Chili, when some of our attackmen have gone down this year and we've had to start two freshmen there, he remembered what it was like, right, and has slowly been guiding them and helping them to feel more comfortable with what they need to do there. And I think winning is fun. Like the guys want to continue. They want to continue to win, and they also want to look back when they're alumni and be proud of the program, right? And they don't want to see it fall apart once they leave. And so I think, the groups over the last few years that have graduated have taken it very seriously that, hey, look, we want to leave a legacy. We want to make sure that the guys under us are prepared for the coming years. And, there is, you alluded to it, it is a little bit hard when you have had a lot of success, right? It is easy for these guys to maybe start taking practice a little less seriously. When unfortunately where maybe there are more easy games than we'd like in the schedule, right? Like it does tend to be top heavy in most of the conferences. It's hard to keep that motivation, but we, as a coaching staff, we have to find new ways. I'll bring in guest coaches, we'll work on something that maybe they haven't seen before, right? And throw a curveball at them like, hey, we're going to work on this part of zone offense, or we're going to put in some new man up. There's some new end line plays, things like that kind of keep, especially this time of year when they're struggling to study for finals and do things like that. You got to keep them on their toes and kind of find ways to keep them motivated. So.
Mm-hmm. Coach, what's it going to take, without giving away the game plan, obviously, but what needs to happen, so to speak, on the field for your club to not only get back to another championship game, but to bring home another trophy?
Well, I mean, number one, we talked about it. We got to stay healthy, right? We got to make sure we're getting guys healthy and make sure we're as healthy as we can be going in the playoffs, which I think we will. We're on track and feeling good about, who's going to be playing over the next couple of weeks. And then it really comes out in matching intensity with the other team, right? These guys, I mean, even during the regular season, they know they have a target on their back every time they set, with the success we've had, right? Like whether it's a regular season game or in the playoffs, it would make any team season to beat us, right? And we know that, and that's a burden that those guys got to carry. So they've got to come into the game ready to match that intensity. We've been in semifinal and even quarterfinal or finals where all of a sudden they're 5 minutes into the game and it's like, whoa, this other team was ready and maybe we took this a little light. Can't do that. When it comes playoff time, everybody's going to give you your best shot. I think face-off play and defense always ramps up in the playoffs. Like every team kind of studies tape. Every team knows your tendencies. So you've got to be ready yourself to play your best between the lines and in the defensive end of the field. I know it's cliche, but truly defenses do win championships. And especially when the other team, when teams know each other so well, you've got to be able to make stops and convert that into transition. And so we've been spending a lot of time working on our team defense, controlling the controllables, right? Like what can we know if we get the ball enough, we're going to put it in the back of the net, but we got to be able to stop the other team. We got to be able to get the ball. So we've been spending a lot of time doing that and just trying to, like we talked about, trying to be ready to match that. And whether it's a play-in game, quarterfinal, semifinal, or final, we've got to come out firing over there. And I just challenged the guys. I said, look, there's a 4 to 5 game season left, right? Give it everything you got. And if we're not good enough, we're not good enough. But let's not lose because we weren't prepared, right? Let's lose because the other team was better than us. And I think for the most part, like we'll be in every game if we can do that down the stretch.
Yeah, and then of course, Coach. Finally, on a personal note, you've got your hands full at this time of year as well. Athletic director, teacher, coach, parent. How do you balance that, and how do you make sure that your players balance that with the upcoming graduation, proms, end of the year festivities, etc.?
Players, I think they've got a good balance of. I mean, that is one of the luxuries of having the success that we've had over the last couple of years. They know the routine. They know what to expect. We put out, I'll put out weekly timelines and tell the kids like, hey, this is the weekly schedule. This is the dismissal time. This is the departure time, right down to, this is the face-off time. This is when we're going to, the game's going to be done. Kind of just like for them to have in their mind, like, okay, these are the steps that we're going to take each day. Even as far as sending out, practice plans and things like that ahead of time. So there's just less for them to think about, and it just becomes automatic, right? There's no guessing. There's no worrying about what we're going to do, right down to reminding them, hey, man, you need your mouth guard, your water bottle, your jersey, all the, what color jersey we're wearing that day, what color socks, all that kind of stuff. We kind of treat it like a college program. Right. And, we try and do all those things for the kids to take some of that off their plate because they have a huge academic commitment here, and they take it very seriously. So we try and do as much for that as we can. We joke that maybe we baby them a little too much. We send them off to college, and sometimes they don't get that same treatment there in college. So, me personally, I'm still figuring that out, Nick. I'm still a new, somewhat new father, somewhat new AD. It's tough to balance. It is tough balancing all those things. But I'm blessed with a really great coaching staff that's been with me for a while. And, I told them I was a little vulnerable and said, hey guys, I'm going to need you to step up a little bit. And they've been great. So, just thrilled to have those guys with me that have been with me as long as they have. And so that's made things a little bit easier to balance. So.
Yeah. Coach, as usual, we appreciate the time tonight. Good luck tomorrow night on senior night, and good luck moving forward in the postseason as you're in the hunt for number 8. We appreciate it, Coach.
Much appreciated, guys. Thanks for having me on. Keep it up. You guys do a great job, and it's a great service to New Hampshire Lacrosse to have you guys on here. So thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Appreciate it, Coach. Thank you. And again, Coach Hutler, class act and a great coach. Obviously, he's built a program over the years. They won several championships at the outset in Division III and have won several at D2 as well, including last year in overtime over Portsmouth. What was your big takeaway there, Eric?
Yeah, no, I think the biggest takeaway is just his experience, just how he's got everything down to a T in terms of the process when it gets time of the year. I know you asked him about the distractions with the prom and the finals. And I think, just his preparation, his attention to detail. I've, known Coach for, a long time now, since I was a player in Tomahawks over a decade ago, and one of my mentors for sure. And, look to him for advice, and, I really admire the way, he prepares, and, and the work he puts in, and his attention to detail, and you can see that, and he thinks of everything. No detail goes unturned, and just the way it keeps his team focused, as he mentioned. In some of the games they play are easier games, a little lopsided. It's hard to keep guys focused, right? We always talk about making sure that you're measuring yourselves against yourself, right? Not against the opponent you're playing, and continue to be process driven and not results driven. So it's good that he mentioned putting in the wrinkles in practice, the guest coaches, things like that, whatever, keeps kids on their toes and continue to progress in the right direction.
Mm. All right. We're going to take a break. Then at the other side, in about 2 minutes, we're going to welcome in Memphis Patterson, Diego Jimenez, and Brad Sprague, 3 of the seniors on Pelham right now, the best record in Division III. What'll be the keys to a championship? We'll find out from the horses' mouths next. You are watching FNL Lacrosse. It's presented by the New Hampshire Tomahawks.
Our broadcast today, as it always is brought to you by Beals Insurance Agency, with locations now in both Bedford and Londonderry. Whether you need home, auto, or business insurance, Beals Insurance will get you both the price and quality coverage that's right for you. Just call 603-471-9999 or visit BealsInsurance.com to request a free quote and start saving money today. Again, that's BealsInsurance.com. The New Hampshire Tomahawks promote the highest level of club lacrosse competition, not just in the state, but in the country. Looking to get recruited? Director Chris Cameron keeps an open dialogue with the nation's top college lacrosse coaches. Over 400 New Hampshire Tomahawks alumni have played at the college level, including the ACC, Big East, Big Ten, Ivy, NESCAC, NE10, and more. New Hampshire Tomahawks coaching staff has over 100 coaches, including current high school, varsity, and college coaches. The Tomahawks offer training for players of all ages, clinics, camps, and leagues, along with spring, summer, and fall elite teams. So play with the best. The New Hampshire Tomahawks, showcase and development for college lacrosse. Visit NewHampshireTomahawks.com and girls.nhtomahawks.com. How can you reach your team's fundraising goals at no risk and no cost? MG Sports offers a variety of products to make your team's fundraiser a success. Their products include tickets and discount cards to hundreds of local businesses. MG Sports now has a digital platform where athletes can raise funds in the comfort and safety of their own home. So become another lacrosse program like Bedford, Goffstown, or Memorial that sets fundraising records every season. MG Sports, fundraising made easy. Visit mgsportsfundraising.com to start raising money for your team today.
Welcome back inside FNL Lacrosse, presented by the New Hampshire Tomahawks. Nick Anastas, Eric Coburn with you. We thank Chris Hutler, head coach of Dairyfield, for joining us. We'll speak shortly with Sarah Chodosh of Hopkinton, and momentarily with 3 seniors from Pelham, Memphis Patterson, Diego Jimenez, and Brad Sprague. Quick programming reminder, we are on the eve of the tournament, and again this year, Friday Night Lights New Hampshire will broadcast select games in conjunction with the NFHS Network. The only place to watch those games live are on NFHSnetworks.com, NFHSnetwork.com. They have the scheduling information there, and about 48 or so hours, maybe 24, I'm not sure, we will release the broadcast for free on our YouTube channel, FNLNH Media. So FNLNH Media and the NFHS Network, once again, back in the saddle for the tournament. All right, let's bring them in. Our Tomahawks players of the week on the boys' side, Memphis Patterson, Diego Jimenez, and Brad Sprague, joining us from Pelham. Gentlemen, good evening. How are you?
Good, you?
Good.
I'm good. Well, let's start with the record, shall we? 13-1. That's the best mark right now on the eve of the tournament. How important is the 1 seed? And I guess as a standalone accomplishment, how big was that 13-1 potential best record regular season in your mind? Let's start with Memphis.
Obviously it's huge to get that first seed. We don't have to buy in to play into the tournament. Coming up as like competition wise in that number 1 seed, it sets us a little bit higher. We don't have to get banged up at a buy-in game and get to take a little day rest there on Wednesday instead of playing.
Diego?
Yeah, it's definitely huge for us, especially as like our program hasn't won a championship and we're just proving that we're going to be the team to do it and we're going to bring it all the way home. And especially it helps with seeding who we play and who we've played before, so we know who we match up good against. So it definitely helps, and especially with Laconia being the semifinals where we play. So it makes it so we might not have to play Laconia at Laconia, so they don't get that home seat advantage. So,
right, Brad, you agree with that?
Oh, definitely. It's huge because at the beginning of the season, we did not know where we would place. And seeing us now 13-1, it's just huge. We all are up, ready to go, and hopefully we can bring the ship in.
Yeah. Now, Brad, let's stay with you. Your plans next year include playing for UNH, a very good club team. And what I just found out was that your younger brother is one of the top face-off men in the division. How did it end up that you were on the defensive side of things, and your little brother ended up being a face-off guy? How did that happen? And how did the UNH process go?
So it all started actually with my older brother because he was an attackman, and I started out as attack. Then my brother went to midfield. He was starting for midfield, and I wanted to be different, have each of us play a different position. So I went down to defense, and I just loved it so much. I stick with it, and I love the process of basically hitting people and just everything about it. And for UNH, I'm hoping just to walk on, show them my talents, and play for them.
Yeah. Diego, you're part of that defensive unit as well. And obviously we're one of the standouts on the football field back in the fall for a very, very good program on the gridiron. But is there a correlation there? Do football players tend to be attracted by the defensive position? Or in your case, what drew you to become a defenseman?
Well, in football, I've always played in the trenches, down the line, so hitting's what I like to do. And especially at a young age, I would never claim to be the most athletic, so they kind of just tossed me there. I played a little goalie, played a little pole, and I just stuck with what I liked more, and it was definitely defense where I stood out and played better at least.
Yeah. Memphis, I saw you smiling there. What can you add? Obviously, you had a huge hand in that football success as well. You agree with Diego in terms of the comparisons?
Yeah, I 100% agree. I played defense all the way up until my junior year. Indoor lacrosse coach shot, and he said, "We're going to throw you on offense and see what happens." And I guess the rest is history from there.
Yeah. Which do you like better?
I definitely like offense better.
God, such a traitor.
Eric?
Hey, fellas, thanks for hopping on. Obviously, a big key to success, having a successful season is, having the talent, but, team chemistry is a huge part of that. What can you guys say about, the team chemistry, the camaraderie, spending time together off the field, talk a little bit about that and, the importance of that, with this group.
I got it. It was definitely a questionable thing going into the season. We had a lot of freshmen that we knew were coming in and we're going to play big roles, but a lot of those kids we watched grow up and watched them in Outlaws. Some of us helped even coach them. So we already had a little connection with them. And we, through last year and stuff, we made definitely a good connection with the younger kids. And our senior group is very tight. We're friends out of school and we're always playing wall ball or going, hanging out and do stuff like that. So we definitely have a good connection. And through our youth program, we definitely got good chemistry, and we knew that going into the season.
All right, fellas, what's it going to take? I asked this of Coach Hutler a moment ago. I'm going to ask you, what's it going to take over the next couple of weeks to bring home the title, and what would that mean to you personally? Memphis, let's start with you.
It's going to take everything, absolute 100% from every single player. Our goalie is huge for us. He stands on his head most of the games. Defense, 3 of them been playing together for the past 2 years. And Diego and Brad have been playing since they were 6 together. Same thing with our middies. We've all been playing since we were about 6 together. And our attack are young, but they're huge, huge help to us. And taking home a championship would mean pretty much the world to all of us. We've tried for the last 4 years, and we're out of running to make it happen.
Yeah. Brad, what do you think?
It's going to take heart. it's going to take all of us to put in the maximum amount of effort, 110% every single game. We can't slack off. We can't goof around too much. Obviously, we can have fun doing it, but we want to win. And bringing home the ship would mean so much to us. We've been playing 4 years together, trying everything off, and we just want to bring home that ship, be the first ones to put it in the case.
Yeah. And Diego, obviously your career is going to continue, I understand, at the University of New England. How big with a title going into that summer and then keeping the momentum going, so to speak? How big would that championship be at this point in your career?
Definitely would be great going into my next 4 years of my career, knowing I can tell those kids that, hey, I want a championship and I want to bring one over here too. And I was just looking like a week ago at the old scores of the championship runs they made before, runner-ups, 1-point games, overtime games, and I definitely think we're the team that's going to break through and we're going to do it. And I'm very confident in this team, and we're just going to stay disciplined and work hard. And I'm very excited to see what we have left in us for the playoffs.
Yeah. Well, fellas, enjoy it. No matter how it ends, it's going to be the run over the next couple of weeks that you'll remember, win or lose. So certainly good luck, and we appreciate the time tonight, guys. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so
Thank you
much
for having us on.
Thank you. Again, Memphis Patterson, Diego Jimenez, and Brad Sprague joining us live from Pelham. The Pythons right now have the inside track for the number 1 seed in the upcoming Division III tournament. Speaking of Division III tournament, on the girls' side, certainly Hopkinton, they've had success in the past, having success again with a 12-2 record. Big part of that is Sarah Chodosh, who joins us right now. The senior attack on her way to D1 Lindenwood next year. Sarah, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. I see you got a James Patterson book over there on the windowsill. Are you a big reader?
I do. No, this is my parents' room.
Oh, okay. So they must be the readers, I guess.
Yeah,
Your
not
team,
me.
your team is 12-2. How big is that? Is that something you guys can appreciate at this point, or is that kind of a means to an end in terms of hunting for a championship?
Yeah, I mean, it's given us a lot of confidence, especially going into playoffs. Our 2 losses were more in the beginning of the season, so finishing our regular season with a winning streak gave us a lot of confidence as a team to go into playoffs, and we definitely want to continue that. And yeah, so I think just confidence overall as a team and continuing that win streak.
Yeah. And you're obviously a big part of that, I would imagine, both on and off the field. As an attackman, you've been contributing to the offense consistently. But what is your role off the field? How do you police some of the younger players and keep some of your teammates focused? Is that your role, or how exactly do you fit in with the hierarchy in the locker room?
Yeah, well, so we have a really young team this year. We have a lot of freshmen. So I know I heard going into the season, a lot of them were scared of me, but I've tried my best to be really nice and friendly to all of them. Our upperclassmen, we've all done a really good job, and our field, we play at our library field, so all the freshmen have to get rides there. So I think all the upperclassmen have done a great job at stepping up and giving all the freshmen rides. So I have a car full of freshmen every day that definitely gives us some bonding time. And yeah, we do captain practices a lot, so that gives us some bonding as well as focusing on what we want to focus on, and it gives us a lot of players time to focus on what they want individually, not just as a team.
Yeah, tell me a little bit more about the captain's practice. Is that where the coaches kind of step aside and allow the captains to run the practice, or what exactly does that look like?
Yeah. So some days, when it's supposed to be optional or we aren't supposed to have practice, we decide as a team, let's just do a captain's practice, and they don't come at all. It's just us. So it gives the girls, they become a lot more vocal, and we do a lot of drills, especially drills I learned from Tomahawks. So it definitely gives the captains time to kind of step into our coaching, and it's really fun. If we don't have time that week to do bonding, that kind of gives us time to do more team bonding. And I think it's a lot of fun, and it helps our team. And yeah.
And what about the bonding part? What are some of the activities that fill up that time of the schedule?
We do a lot of dinners. We started the season off with a dinner, and you had to bring a food with the first letter of your name. And so all the freshmen are really creative with that. And that was a lot of fun. We watched a college game, and we've done some dinners at my house, and we've gone to ice cream together. And again, those car rides are a lot of bonding for us.
Yeah. Eric, can you think of a food that begins with E?
Eggs, right? Yeah, eggs. There we go.
Yeah.
There you go. Hey Sarah, thanks for hopping on. Two-part question here. First one is, why Lindenwood? And then two, what part of your game do you want to specifically continue to work on the most, heading into the college level next year?
Yeah, so it's funny. This time last year is when I took my visit to Lindenwood. So it was definitely later in the process that I committed, but it was perfect timing. I got a call from the coach, and I went down there within a week. And I went with my mom, and my mom and I both fell in love with it. I loved the coaches and the energy, and the facilities were everything I was looking for. Same with the campus. And it just really fit what I was looking for, and I could see myself playing for the coaches. And so I've been playing midi these past 2 years for Hopkinton, so I actually got recruited as a midfield for Lindenwood. So I definitely want to focus more on my defense going into college, because I've been playing attack ever since I started. So I'm definitely better at offense. So going in, playing college, I want to focus on my defensive skills.
What are you going to study? Any idea yet?
So I was going to study business, but I think I'm going to go in undecided, because I like giving myself a lot of options, and I wasn't too sure, so I wanted to go in and see all my options and decide from there.
Yeah, that's a smart move. All right, back to lacrosse. What makes this team tick? You mentioned, obviously, your skill set for sure. What about your teammates? And what do they need to do, in your opinion, for you guys to win the championship?
Yeah, so I think we have a lot of freshmen on our team, and I think just combining the upperclassmen and the freshmen a little bit more. We've been doing a good job recently, but I really want to do some more team bonding, and chemistry is really important, especially as we're going against some harder teams. So I think we're really just we have like a week until our first playoff game, because we got a bye. So during that week, I think we should really focus on just communicating during practices and outside bonding, and yeah, just focusing really hard in practice.
Yeah, staying focused, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, best of luck, for sure. You guys are on the short list of contenders, as I like to say, and have a good shot as anybody in a wide open Division III. We wish you luck, not just in the tournament, but good luck with graduation coming up, and next year playing D1 lacrosse at Lindenwood. We appreciate the time tonight. Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. That's Sarah Chodosh, the attackman / midfielder from Hopkinton, D1 bound. They're going to play for Lindenwood next year. Good stuff with both interviews, Eric. Learned a lot in the last 20 or so minutes from both the boys and the girls' perspective. And, well, what was your big takeaway over the final segment?
I think with Sarah. Yeah. I think with her, the thing I liked about what she said about her team was, the piece about like the intermingling between, the seniors and the freshmen, teams and cultures that, are not, cohesive and kind of have cliques. They have very little chance of succeeding. So it's great that, she talked about that, and, the chemistry and the team bonding, you're going to want to play harder and work a lot harder for people you like. So, you're going to like them a lot more if you spend a lot of time with them and build that chemistry, which was great to, hear that piece, that stuck out to me. And then, with the Pelham trio there, I think confidence definitely jumped off the page. They're very adamant that they're going to be the Pelham team to break through. That's a program that's been knocking on the door for a long time. Couple 1-goal losses here and there each year, and they're ready to finally break through. And I think the amount of confidence they had definitely jumped out to me, because belief is the first step. Half the battle is believing that you have the pieces in the team to do it, and then from there it's about executing. So great to hear that they have that confidence going into the tournament. As we mentioned, the D3 is going to be wide open, so any little advantage that you can get, with confidence being one of those is great. So yeah, two awesome interviews. Learned a lot from both. Really enjoyable to listen to.
Yeah. Well, it's been a good run the last couple of weeks, Eric. We appreciate you filling in, for sure, especially on short notice and with how busy you've been with St. Anselm. We appreciate it. Reminder to the public at large, we will be broadcasting the tournament, both boys and girls, throughout the next couple of weeks in conjunction with the NFHS Network. The NFHS Network, their website is nfhsnetwork.com, and that is where you can watch the games live. Roger and I, Kristen and I will be on the calls. Ben will be producing it. It's all the same song and dance that we do here on Friday Night Light New Hampshire, but it's just on nfhsnetwork.com. So that will be the broadcast schedule moving forward. All right. I want to thank our guest tonight, Chris Hutler, for coming on, Memphis Patterson, Diego Jimenez, Brad Sprague from Pelham, and of course, Sarah Chodosh, all doing a great job tonight, and we appreciate them taking out the time. And of course, our sponsors who have been there all year long. Of course, the presenting sponsor of the show is the New Hampshire Tomahawks, nhtomahawks.com, girls.nhtomahawks.com. Of course, MG Sports Fundraising. It's fundraising made easy, mgsportsfundraising.com. And of course, Beals Insurance, holding down the fort from day one. Visit bealsinsurance.com. For my co-host, Eric Coburn, the director, the man behind the curtain, Ben Beals, and executive producer, Steve Beals. My name is Nick Anastas, saying so long. This has been FNL Lacrosse, presented by the New Hampshire Tomahawks.